Honest hearts. To some, a treasure. To others, absolute garbage. What is surprising is how both sides are actually right when you look through their lenses. On one hand, you've got Joshua Graham. He's based writing, an amazing voice actor. You've got the story of Randall Clark and the fight to defend the land of the natives so they don't get displaced. On the other though, you've got Follows Chalk ruining most people's first impressions of Zion, Daniel's dumb arguments, and the need to cope with the fact that once you're done with the main quest, yeah, you can come back, but every single NPC that matters vanished out of thin air. There's a lot of interesting, there's a little bit of stupid, and I'm gonna go through every single bit of lore. I'm gonna go to hoover them, with only weapons and armor found in the DLC, but most importantly, can you beat Fallout New Vegas Honest Hearts at level 1? A tickle to the brain and a weird dream later in the tale of Bubbles begins. I'm gonna go with 18 endurance, intelligence, agility, and luck, 6 in strength, and 1 in both perception and charisma. Her best skills are energy weapons, guns, and unarmed, and the traits that most define her are early birds and built to destroy. The first thing I do is to drop every single item that Doc Mitchell gave me, except for our trusty Vault Canteen, of course. Much akin to what I did in Dead Money at level 1, I am not allowed to use or bring any items until I reach the DLC. And I can't find any map markers from Good Springs to the Northern Passage either. This is to ensure that I go in at the lowest possible level and experience. The first part of the journey goes the same way as well. Do not get too close to Gene skydiving, stay on the right side of the tracks near Sloan, do the mountain climbing a bit further down the road from Neil's shack, and the second I jump over the right rock, we are good to go from near Repcon's HQ until Freeside. Avoiding its gates and the Crimson Caravan is just a matter of crossing the road, which means all that's left is to simply not get close to the North Vegas Square. Now let's see what this job is all about.
Happy Trails is organizing an expedition north into Utah, off the Long 15, and we need people. We're looking for caravan guards, prospectors, couriers. If you're used to humping it across the waste, straight toward trouble, we want you. If you got a Pip-Boy, we definitely want you.
And here we are, with no items, with only the bare minimum XP possible, ready to meet the crew. First, the boss, Jeff Masterson, goes over the job.
Help us get this caravan into Zion and find New Canaan. The pay is 25 caps per day, half up front, half on return. You'll get a bonus if we make it into Zion, plus another bonus if we reach New Canaan.
And he's got a warning. We should not mention the name Joshua Graham or Burnt Man to anyone. A nice little hook to get you curious about Kaiser's former second-in-command from the get-go, but that is a story for later. Jet tells us that the Happy Trails caravan is based in Sacktown, Sacramento, and that most of its business is done with New Reno, just north of Shady Sands. But as they lost contact with New Canaan, business dwindled. The alternative trading routes to Salt Lake City are either filled to the brim with raiders or simply too much of a go-around. And so they intend to secure the route through Zion. When asked about the New Canaanites, we learned that they were a religious group from before the war. They controlled the city of Ogden, north of Zion. But they also had a mission in the canyon itself. At least they did, before they lost contact with them.
Hence this caravan. If we don't make contact with the New Canaanites, Happy Trails might as well just shrivel up and die.
To reach Zion, we're gonna have to navigate a mountain pass, and that's why Jed was interested in someone with a Pip-Boy, to keep us on the trail, to have an idea of the topography as we go. Interestingly enough, here's where the courier's got an option to expand on his own lore. We can tell Jed that we haven't been through Utah recently, implying we have been there before, and inquire about its current state. He tells us that even Arizona under Kaiser is safer, that there are raiders, cannibals, warlocks. It's not good. That's where we're going. To Utah, to Zion. As he describes the tribes we are likely to encounter, one will be extremely important: the White Legs. Originally from Great Salt Lake, they attack anyone on sight. Lastly, once we agree we are good to go, we won't be able to come back until we're done. There's also a weight limit to go in, due to the narrow slot canyons and high rough passes. I don't need to worry about it since I'm not bringing in any items, but you can expand it by passing a 50 survival skill check.
You sure you're ready now?
Before we go, there's 2 other special cookies to meet and greet, but I'll keep it brief. First, Stella. She is the caravan guard. Grew up in New Reno, used to be a sheriff in Caliente, got bored, and doesn't like to stay put.
You ask me, best to keep moving. At least the scenery changes.
When asked about New Reno, she describes it as New Vegas without Mr. House to keep the peace. As for Caliente, when it wasn't being raided by the 80s or the White Legs, folks seem to have no issue causing trouble to themselves. We also learned that when the Desert Rangers were absorbed into the NCR, the White Legs grew bolder.
Folks learned not to head north if they wanted to keep their scalps.
Now, Ricky, he's not exactly a lore guy.
Hey, little lady. Don't be scared to join this caravan. I'll keep a close eye on you. Real close. Promises.
He's a creep. And an idiot.
Nice job, Eagle Eye. Of course I got a pit boy and a vault suit.
Between the Pit Boy, Vault 22, Death Jaws.
Once I got jumped by 3 Death Jaws. Except, actually, it was 4 of them.
The Steel Brotherhood and the 11mm machine gun. Oh boy.
I'm one of a kind. I've been places, see? And done things. Lots of them.
And somehow it gets worse.
Well, I grew up near Dayglow out west, so yeah. I grew a 3rd nut that glows in the dark. I'll drop trout for you out on the trail after dark, sis. Let you see what you're working with. Know what I mean?
Great, I'll see what I'm shooting at.
Hey, that's... Man, what a bitch. I was just being friendly.
Well, I don't have the stats for it, but you can use a skill check to have him cower and give up, if you so choose. Not that it matters. And you can say a lot of things about Ricky, but at the very least, he's got an honest heart. I know, but hey, don't shoot the messenger. Anyways, Jed, let's get this show on the road.
Let's get moving. We got a long road ahead of us. Turns out Caesar's first war chief, the Malpace Legate, was a New Canaanite, Joshua Graham. Legend goes that Graham was the meanest, toughest son of a bitch in the whole damn legion. Well, at Hoover Dam, the Malpace Legate finally met his match. Hanlon and Oliver kicked his New Canaanite butt right back over the river. Caesar had to make an example for the others, to show them that even at the highest level, failure wouldn't be tolerated. He had Graham covered in pitch, lit on fire, and thrown into the Grand Canyon. People say he didn't even scream on the way down. Not long after, some of the slaves and tribals started to talk. Said Graham wasn't dead. Shouldn't have been any surprise. All this talk bothered Caesar, so he forbade anyone from speaking his name. Wanted to erase Joshua Graham from history. He got his wish. Joshua Graham disappeared, and in his place came legends of the burned man walking the wastes. Probably just a tribal ghost story. But New Canaan's been silent for a long time. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe the Malpace Legate is dead. Or maybe Joshua Graham did crawl out of that canyon and finally found his way back home.
The cutscene makes it extremely obvious that Happy Trails and New Canaan are gonna play second fiddle to the story of Joshua Graham here in Zion. And speaking of Zion, we've arrived. Stella, she complains that there is no way to turn back if the need arises, but she's about to face much bigger issues.
God damn it, ambush! Cover people! Watch yourselves!
The White Legs, they immediately show up and attack us. I go to the duffel bags and to the corpses that now start piling up in the ground. And as I'm trying to get all the weapons and ammo possible, I just let things play out. You see, there's no way of helping anyone. The deaths, they're scripted. Every single one of them. Which means that you cannot take care of the White Legs until now. So, once I have everyone's inventory, I equip and repair some leather armor, put on the sunglasses and get the grenade launcher out. From the first wave of White Legs, I also found a 9mm and 45 auto submachine guns. VATS helps me take out the next 2 guys and this gets me to level 2. I put the points into guns and took the Black Widow perk. Across the bridge, we gotta be careful not to ruin the entire DLC because of poor design. The one remaining white leg in this area gets attacked by another tribal, but that one is here to help us out. It is a bit of a canon event to kill Follows Chalk by mistake in your first run, and well, if you do, there goes the entire questline down the drain.
Oi, white legs don't leave survivors often. You're some kind of lucky, let me tell you.
To make the premise of Honest Hearts even more obvious, and despite Jed's warnings not to mention the name Joshua, one of the first things we hear from Follows Chalk is that the Burn Man would like to hear about our second coming, to Utah. I haven't seen many people making that connection, but given Joshua's religious beliefs, the entire point of having the courier mention that he's been to Utah before makes a lot more sense now. The land is embroiled in turmoil, and in due time we'll see the end of Zion as it was first presented to us. Judgment will pass, and we will have to make a choice. We learn that Joshua Graham's currently leading the Dead Horses tribe, keeping them safe, and that we are to find them at the Eastern Virgin. Follows Chalk has a little side quest for us about finding a bighorner calf that got separated from its herd. Another subtle reference. The Whitelegs, they've been growing bolder and raiding deeper into Zion ever since New Canaan was wiped out. That consolidates once and for all that Happy Trails and New Canaan are nothing but accessories to the plot. And there's another tribe, the Sorrows, led by a man named Daniel, who's helped other survivors flee the valley. Currently, Joshua and Daniel have been arguing over whether to stand and fight or to take the Sorrows and the Dead Horses out of the valley. Follows Chalk also gives us some lore on Joshua Graham's tenure as the Legion's Malpez legate. He first met the Dead Horses while he was still under Caesar. The Dead Horses were ready to follow him into war, and then Joshua lost the battle for Hooverdam. As he puts it, he returned burned, broken, but changed. And that is when he led the Dead Horses away from the Legion and into their own destiny in Zion. He taught them how to fend for themselves, show them how Kaiser would have destroyed them. And we can also get him to describe how Joshua used to be. Prouder, harder, crueler, more driven. Basically, he was the personification of the terrifying presence perk. Everyone was afraid of him. Now, he's humbler, someone that wants to protect rather than to destroy. It's also interesting that if we mention Hooverdam, he finds it ridiculous. Why would two civilized tribes fight for something so small? We can tell him it's actually an unfathomably huge structure, not just some sticks put up by some beavers. Now that we've gotten the full gist of it, I'd like to go on a small tangent, if you'd allow me. I'm gonna make you some rhetorical questions. This is just food for thought, but it's important to get the tone of the DLC right. Would you rather be incorruptible or forgiven? Who is the better person? The preacher that never lied, never stole, never killed, never betrayed, that always gave the other cheek? Or the knight crusader that had to do what needed to be done for the greater good? Would you kill one person to save 1,000? If I had to guess, yeah, you would say you would. It's the pragmatic choice that leads to the better outcome. But I genuinely believe that if you were actually there, knife in hand, eyes to eyes, instead of just doing quick math, you would see perfectly what I mean. It is not as cut and dry, and what I'm trying to convey is that there's more to defining good than meets the eye. It shouldn't simply be chucked into a secular versus religious perspective. It's just hard to define good and what it means to be a good person when you look at it through the lenses of a pure kind soul that never wronged anybody versus someone that wouldn't hesitate in doing the hard thing to prioritize the greater good. Look, there is no right answer, but by the end, we'll have to make a decision. Back to the action, and after a bit of looting, a Yogwai showed itself but did not come after us. The white legs and the Yogwai cubs aren't exactly difficult to deal with at level 1. Just don't let the young cazador come close to you, and I was really lucky that the giant red scorpion got stuck on a rock, but to be fair, the latter two could have been easily avoided. I kept getting all the goodies that might come in handy later. Discovering the Eastern Virgin gets me to level 3. I put the points into guns, found a war club, and some fishies. We gotta be careful about the traps, and before going on to meet Joshua, we can explore the Fallen Rock Cave. Over here, there's even more traps, even more loot. We find the unique laser pistol, the compliance regulator, and we are first introduced to the story of the survivalist, Randall Clark. To freshen up your memory, New Vegas takes place during the year of 2281. So, 204 years ago, in 2077, the Great War started when the bombs dropped, and 5 days later from that, Randall typed his first entry. On October 23rd, as he was an hour away from his house, nukes dropped on Salt Lake City, his hometown. He was lucky to be looking the other way, and like the old couple that got blinded by the explosion, they were in the other lane, in their car. Randall in his truck, both engines dead. During the next 7 minutes, he counted 12 more flashes, ground shook each time. And then, when nothing else hit for half an hour, that's when he took a look and the realization sank in. His wife, his son, everything he cared for, gone. Not knowing what to do, he grabbed his pack and rifle, got out of the truck, saw the old couple comforting themselves and told them he would help, that everything would be okay, and put a bullet through both their heads. For 5 days, he walked back to Zion, getting little, if any, sleep in between, wondering about all the times that Charlotte, his wife, begged him to stop running off to the wilds. Her words just kept echoing through his head. A man belongs with his family. He couldn't but agree. He couldn't but feel that he should have been there, holding them one last time, knowing he should have dived with them. So he thought of doing it, ending it, joining them, but he couldn't. And here in Fallen Rock Cave, alongside the terminal, he found some equipment left behind by the United States Geographical Survey, an agency from the Department of the Interior. The place was empty. Maybe the researchers thought they'd still had a family to go back to, that maybe he too should go back after the blisters heal. Outside was like nothing happened. Zion was untouched, the sky just felt wrong. 2 days later, he mentions black rain and the Geiger counter is going nuts. Another 3 days later, on November 2nd, Geiger showing lethal doses of radiation 15 feet from the cave's entrance, and the silence, it's getting louder. Either the radiation goes down before water runs out, or this will be it. 2 months later, he starts a second entry, for the year of 2078, January 1st. Happy New Year! The radiation levels outside are still lethal. This is not what they told him when he was in the army. Fallout should have cleared in 2 to 4 weeks. Now, he's got less than a month of water supplies. He's been mopping condensation off cave walls, wringing shirts into bottles, trading calories for H2O. At least the food is enough, but if he could just see Charlotte and his son, Alex, once again, he wouldn't think twice about running outside. January 10th, a windstorm's been blowing for 2 days. Radiation's down 500. January 15th, he took a peek. Snow, glowing green. January 28th, rods are low enough to risk short exposure outside. And the cave's water is now drinkable if he uses rad cams. Last entry, 30th. Nothing is alive out there. That's it for now, and really close to Fallen Rock Cave we've got the Dead Horses Camp. And in the middle of it lays Angel Cave, where we'll finally get to meet Joshua Graham. First, at the entrance, a disciple of Canaan asks if we are looking for him. We're called smart for recognizing broken Spanglish mixed with utter nonsense, me gusta pechos. We're told to act right, respectfully, and that Joshua's a bit further up.
We should have given you a better welcome on your first visit to Zion. But from what I hear, the Whitelegs beat us to it.
And there he is, finally, Joshua Graham. Or what's left of the Malpais Legate, after he lost the Battle of Hooverdam. He got covered in pitch, was set on fire, and thrown into the Grand Canyon. As an example,
I pray for the safety of all good people who come to Zion, even Gentiles. But we can't expect God to do all the work.
Aside from the bandages covering his entire body, the first thing we notice is his stern tone and his methodical demeanor. Calm, focused, decided. And do note how he says he prays for the safety of all good people. Not all people. That will be important later. He also threw in a little reference about Ulysses, saying we are not the courier he was expecting. Ulysses used to be a part of the Legion, a Frumentarius, that worked either with or along Vulpes in Colta, and whose tribe was betrayed by Vulpes, but that's a story for another time.
New Canaan was destroyed, its citizens scattered. All because of the Whitelegs. And Caesar, of course. The Whitelegs want to join the Legion. Caesar's rite of passage is the destruction of the new Canaanites, almost assuredly because of me. The good news is that we can help you find your way back. Daniel, one of the other new Canaanites, has made many maps of the region. The bad news is that we can't help you right now, not with everything that's going on.
We can offer to help. Joshua and Daniel need some pre-war tools to help them navigate beyond Zion. And since both the Dead Horses and the Sorrows refuse to go into pre-war buildings, that task falls onto our lap. Follows Chuck, he can accompany us during the fetching. As Joshua puts it, he knows enough of the language to ignore the taboos about pre-war buildings. And whilst we could just be off, we can also get some more lore. Joshua states that he has killed enough of the Legion's Frumentarii and assassins for Kaiser not to know that he is still alive. And while Joshua would react to the news of Kaiser being dead, if that were the case, there won't be dialogue about Joshua when we visit the Legion later. If we ask him about God, he goes for a pretty standard response. The new Canaanites believed to be the heirs of a spiritual tradition given to their ancestors thousands of years ago. And in return for honoring God's quote-unquote laws, they are promised eternal salvation in the afterlife.
In a world filled with misery and uncertainty, it is a great comfort to know that, in the end, there is light in the darkness. Every day we move closer to our judgment.
We also learned that every tribe's got their weapons of choice. The Whitelegs use submachine guns, the Dead Horses use war clubs, the Sorrows use Yahweh gauntlets, and as for the new Canaanites, they go for 45 automatic pistols. And when Joshua says that one of his tribe designed them almost 400 years ago, well, that is a direct reference to John Moses Browning, a real-life Mormon firearm designer from Ogden, the town that in the game became known as New Canaan. He also tells us that the Soros camp is in the Narrows, and we can ask why the Whitelegs attacked us to begin with. They attack everyone. They don't know how to survive, so they have to raid. And if we ask if the valley belongs to the Dead Horses...
The valley belongs to God, but no. The Dead Horses live at Dead Horse Point, up the Colorado River. They came here because I asked them to. Before I returned to the fold, I visited them years earlier. I looked much different then, but I left an impression on them. I taught them how to hunt more efficiently, how to maintain their weapons and pre-war equipment. When I returned, they showed their appreciation.
As for the Sorrows' combat ability...
The Sorrows have many skilled hunters among them, but no warriors. They have not had to deal with war or raiders for decades. Even though they can hunt a full-grown Yahweh, they don't know how to deal with the Whitelegs. That's why we're here.
Joshua, he also acts as a vendor, so I'm gonna use this opportunity to get some more ammo, another war club, weapon mods for the 45 Auto and the war club, and some repairs. And before we leave the Eastern Virgin, there's a bighorner calf that we can help. This isn't a coincidence either. The symbolism of an innocent lamb, a return to the flock through the courier's hand, it feels like another Easter egg. But it is a pretty simple and short quest. At the end of the path, you find the calf. Don't want to get too close to the other bighorners as they may attack you, and if they do, then Follows Chuck will attack them. You really don't want to engage in combat on this one, cause if you do, you'll fail the quest. All in all, we just gotta feed a couple banana yuccas to the little thing and keep on moving back to the entrance. Over there, we'll find its mother.
Whew, glad to hear it. That'll be some happy mama, huh? Thank you. Really, it means a lot to me.
On the way to fetch the items we'll need, I tested the compliance regulator on some young geckos. Got me some supplies as I was making the descent, clubbed a giant rat, and we find the crashed scout bus. The little skeleton should tell you everything you need to know about this one. And over here we'll find a compass that we can take. It is broken, but the parts to repair it are but a feet away. Back on the road and smashing some more gecko skulls gets me to level 4, where I start improving lockpicking and go for the educated perk. In the Ranger Substation Eagle we find some supplies, including a stash of 10 stimpaks. We pass a large doggo right after Follows Chalk reads Scenic Overlook as Skinnick, and we get to the general store. A mole rat and the bloatfly didn't stand a chance. I found the key, the DLC snow globe, and the 5 little scout lunch boxes. Why Daniel wants these instead of duffel bags, I can only assume it's for food storage. And just up the road, past a giant ant, we find the Zion Ranger Station, filled with smallback scorpions. Over here, we've got to sterilize the contaminated medical supply kits. For that, we just need to find some alcohol, and as luck would have it, we are guaranteed to find some here in the station. This got me to level 5, that's more points to lockpicking, and we can ask Follows Chalk why he is so obsessed with civilization.
Let me tell you a story. When I was a boy, a man came through the valley with one of the caravans. Tall man, big mustache, carried a guitar. I asked what he did for his living, and the interpreter told me he was a singer. What is that? I asked. The man explained that he went from place to place and sang for people, who gave him food and shelter and care in return. I couldn't believe that there was a place in this world where a man could do that. I promised myself then that one day I'd explore that world myself.
What does Joshua think of it?
I haven't told him yet.
Do you want me to?
You'd do that? Sure. Sounds smart to me. He might not get so mad at you.
He won't get mad, and this will be an even shorter quest than the previous one. But first, let's gather the rest of the supplies. There's a couple young geckos inside the fishing lodge, some supplies, a key, and a couple walkie-talkies. Now, because I took the compass before finding the parts, I had to go back to a workbench to repair it. And since I'm here, I may as well talk to Joshua about Follows Chalk now.
I thought he might. It's been some time since I visited civilized places. I don't have fond memories of them. But I have always seen these places from the outside. I'd rather not influence him more than I already do. Why don't you talk to him?
I've decided to convince him to stay. Between the fiends, the vipers, the jackals, etc., he's better off here in Zion. And well, sure, that's assuming he'd go to the Mojave, but things would be different if he was a companion, if I could take him to Novak or to meet the Lonesome Drifter once again, but no. All there is to it is to encourage him to leave or to stay. You can't even bring him a guitar.
Well, thanks for your telling. I'd like a minute alone to think about this.
The way to the Narrows was pretty uneventful. It was mostly a jog. And as soon as we are near the Sorrow's camp, Waking Cloud comes to us.
You are the one Joshua Graham sent to us. Blessings of the Father in the cave on you. Daniel is waiting for you.
As we'll soon see, some of the Sorrows seem to misunderstand and mix the concept of the Holy Father with the Father in the cave. The Father in the cave being Randall Clark. We can tell Waking Cloud that we like her bear glove and ask where we can get one. She explains that it's a sacred symbol of belonging to the Sorrows from someone who undertook a dangerous quest to aid the tribe. However, if we ask their shaman, Whitebird, maybe we'll be allowed to undertake such a quest. Now, just a little fun fact, since English is my second language, the first time I played Honest Hearts, I didn't know that a midwife was a person trained to aid in childbirth. I just heard middle wife and kept on moving along. She tells us that the children, the sick and the old have already been evacuated in fear of the Whitelegs. We can ask what she's doing when she's not delivering babies, which makes what I just said about middle wife even stupider, and yet no, she's a doctor. We can also ask her about Daniel. He taught her to speak the Holy Tongue, the language of New Canaan, and the Holy Books.
The Father in the caves brought it to them after the judgment, but the ancestors of the Sorrows sinned against him. They were denied the true tongue.
Yeah, she is confusing the two concepts. We learn that she's known Daniel for 6 years and that he attended the birth of her third child, a hard birth, where his knowledge saved both her and her child's lives. It was then that she asked Daniel to learn what he knew so she could help the others. When asked about the Sorrows,
we have dwelt in the Narrows since the end that came in fire. When the Father in the caves punished the world and made us forget the Holy Tongue. We have had good relations with the other tribes in the valley. At least before Salt Upon Wounds brought his Whitelegs here. We have Daniel to thank for our continued existence. His advice and help has kept the Whitelegs from overrunning us. so far.
Asking about salt upon wounds confirms what we already knew. The tribes he crushed are many, and the warriors he's slain were countless. As for the father in the cave,
Have you not heard of the god of the new Canaanites? He is our protector and our judge. He helped our ancestors find their place here in Zion. He gave us many gifts, but we are not to seek him out. His caves are forbidden to us. Those who seek them out are taken from us. His holy bride and holy son were given unto the world to save it. They dwelt in the caverns of the mountains, caverns which can still be seen today.
when confronted about her story not adding up, she affirms that she's seen the father's images, that maybe we are the ones not fully understanding the new Canaanites. As we'll later see, Randall Clark did indeed help them, and he did put a ton of traps in a ton of caves, hence their lack of returning. Further up the river, in the middle of the Soros camp, we finally get to meet Joshua's counterpart, Daniel.
The dead horse has told me details about the attack on your caravan. A stranger's sympathy might not count for much, but for what it's worth, I'm sorry. The Sorrows will mourn your friends too. They mourn everyone, even the Whitelegs. They have sensitive souls, innocent if there is such a thing. In spite of what's happened, I hope that Joshua and I can help you out of here. But to be frank, we need your help too.
We learned that he came here as a missionary, stayed, helped them with various medical problems and general issues. He also feels that it's the new Canaanites' fault that the Whitelegs came to Zion, since under Kaiser's command, they are to chase the new Canaanites to their last man. When asked about his plan, he intends to remove the Sorrows from harm's way. The Whitelegs will not be able to follow them past Grand Staircase. They don't know how to live off the land. And this is the major difference between Daniel and Joshua. One wants to evacuate the valley, the other wants to fight back. We can also ask Daniel why he wants to evacuate, as the new Canaanites don't exactly sound like pacifists.
You've got me figured half right. I'll shoot dead any white leg that tries to creep into this camp. But it's only to protect the Sorrows. The Lord helps those who help themselves. But the Sorrows don't know how. Joshua and I do. Since I got them into this mess, I need to get them out.
He also makes an important distinction.
There is an important difference between killing in defense and waging war.
Joshua's willing to attack back.
Joshua is a living Bible of all mankind's miseries of war. The debt he has levied through his actions, he repays every day. He is a monument both to God's unending forgiveness and to humanity's unfathomable capacity for cruelty. It's written on every inch of his body. When you look at him, do you only see a man of God? Beneath those bandages, he is burned flesh. As he burns, so does he consume everyone around him. Joshua wants to fight because the Whitelegs have stoked the naked flame inside of him. You see the light, but do not yet feel the heat.
He's right. Gotta give it to him on this one. We can also inquire about the father in the caves.
He's some spirit the Sorrows used to believe in. Watched over them from the caves in the valley. They marked some of the caves around here because they think they'll be punished for going inside. I think as more of them learn the teachings of the new Canaanites, they'll lose their old superstitions.
From here we can tell him, no, they've just been thinking about it as one and the same. But he just acknowledges it. Sometimes it's hard to communicate. Daniel, he also acts as a doctor, but let's just give him the supplies he's been in need of.
These supplies are a godsend. But if we're going to evacuate Zion without drawing more white-leg attention, I need you to go back into the valley.
He wants us to scout some locations, clear some traps, deal with some Yao Guai, and to recover a map of Grand Staircase. We agree, and he tells us that Waking Cloud has volunteered to guide us through the valley. We're also given some explosives and a detonator for the Yao Guai. But that's just one of the two ways we've got to deal with them. With that, Follows Chalk returns to the Dead Horse's camp. Daniel would be grateful if we find some Brock Flower and Xanderroot so the Sorrows can craft healing powder. Waking Cloud joins our party, and our dialogue expands. We can ask her about her family. Her husband and her 3 kids are among the ones that have already evacuated Zion. She misses them. Her husband volunteered to lead the hunters that went with them for protection, but it seems that Daniel just looks sad when she asks for news. That doesn't sound good, and so we can return to Daniel to get some answers.
Her 3 children are safe. They made it north weeks ago and met up with new Canaanites heading east. Her husband didn't make it. He died protecting their children from a white leg attack. Do not tell Waking Cloud. She is one of the only Sorrows who can communicate easily with us, and her tribe needs her to be strong right now.
I think she deserves to know. Daniel claims, who are we to put a heavy burden on her now, and so I ask of him, weren't you supposed to help lead them instead of hiding things from them? And while he does agree, much like Joshua, Daniel's got his own priorities. He doesn't want Zion to share the same fate that New Canaan did.
Tell Waking Cloud if you think that's best.
So we become the bearer of bad news.
What? No. You must be mistaken. Daniel would have told me. How dare he? What gives him the right? I thought Daniel was my friend, but he cares nothing for the Sorrows.
No, that's not it.
Perhaps. I will have to have a very long talk with Daniel when all of this is over. Thank you for telling me this truth.
Yep. This gets me to level 6. I got lockpicked to 50, put the rest of the points into guns, took the toughness perk, and made my way to Whitebird's cave.
Hola, outsider. Seek medicine plant. Return with sacred datura root. Receive visions of truth. They guide you.
It seems they won't gatekeep us from getting our own Yaogwai gauntlets, and I found some sacred datura already.
Drink. Tea is strong. Tea is bitter. Wisdom is strong. Wisdom is bitter. You see?
This is funnier if you've got Wild Wasteland. He outright says, take drugs, kill a bear. We're then tasked to find the ghost of She, and we'll be tripping balls until we do so. On the way out of the Narrows, Joshua comes back.
By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept, when we remembered Zion. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it even to the foundation. O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Do you know what it means?
You don't want to leave? Your people are being massacred and you'd rather fight back?
Given those two choices, yes. In the best of all possible worlds, they would just leave us in peace. But they won't. I don't enjoy killing, but when done righteously, it's just a chore, like any other.
No. Trivializing violence under a calm, stern tone, calling taking a life a chore. Joshua, going to war for peace is no different than fucking for virginity. Now, I do agree with the sentiment of fighting for the land. At least so the dead horses and the Sorrows won't have to worry about the white legs. Let's just not pretend that his justification is right just because a good voice actor threw out a badass line. Joshua represents the state of contrition. He's filled to the brim with guilt, and in a way, this is his story, not the courier's. His wrath may have toned down, but his pride is showing, and we're just tagging along. He's more than happy with acting as God's right hand and to be judged for it later. But again, he isn't wrong. Why should these people abandon their lands when all they've done is to be on the short end of someone else's violence? It's just, well, he isn't preaching utilitarianism, is he? A good outcome for the many, being justified at the few's expense. I get it, I do. But in this context, it just highlights that while he's changed, he's still a flawed man, mid-journey. We can also ask him about his past. Born in Ogden, he soon became a missionary and traveled to Arizona. Along the way, he met a duo from the followers of the Apocalypse who were there to help the local tribes. Bill Calhoun, a good man, and Edward Sallow, now Kaiser. The trio hiked into the Grand Canyon, made contact with the Blackfoots, and maybe it was a mistranslation, but by the end of it, they found themselves taken hostage. In captivity, they learned that the Blackfoots were at the end of a losing war, being massacred by 7 other tribes. Edward had an idea: teach them warfare, turn the tide, earn their trust. Joshua translated it all, and in doing so, translation became giving orders. Giving orders became leading in battle. Bill opposed it, but no one gave a fuck about Bill's thoughts. They trained them, organized them, taught them to maintain and even create new weapons, and they won. The other tribes were subdued. Edward named himself Kaiser, made Joshua his Malpais legate, and Bill left. Fun fact, Canyon Runner used to be a member of the Blackfoots. Another fun fact, Ulysses, whom Joshua mentioned earlier, he was a member of the Twisted Hares, a tribe that was crucial in the Legion's early days to cement their growth and complete dominance over Arizona. Joshua had many victories for the Legion, but after the devastating loss in over them, Joshua was burned alive, thrown into the Grand Canyon, and Kaiser banned his name from ever being uttered by his men. And so began the stories of the Burned Man.
I survived because the fire inside burned brighter than the fire around me. I fell down into that dark chasm, but the flame burned on and on. The next morning, I woke up and crawled out of the northern edge of the Grand Canyon, that cursed place. It took me 3 months to reach New Canaan. It was as though the prodigal son had returned. They welcomed me like I had never left, never done anything to shame them. The fire that had kept me alive was love. Their love. God's love. I will never be able to repay the debt I owe to them, but I must try.
With new insights, the journey continues, and past the Vault 22 Dwellers Guard Camp and its port plants and loot, we find a note. Beware, a vengeful spirit stalks these canyons. If you are reading this message, do yourself a favor and turn and run straight out of this canyon. For near 11 months, my people have been engaged in daily battle with an evil spirit of this place. Arriving February of last year with a party 118 strong, we were attacked by primitives and forced to defend ourselves, whereupon something began killing us in wide numbers. We have done our absolute best to find and kill this thing, thinking it was a man because it uses firearms against us, and traps of all kinds. But no man could defy our efforts as this thing has. It is more evil than any man could be. We have been reduced to just 34 of our number. We've lost 6 overseers before me. Some have perished from the sickness in their lungs we carried out of the vaults. But that number is small next to the count of friends this thing has murdered. Now that I am finally made overseer, we are leaving straight away and will not return. If you have come to this seeming paradise, seeming the fresh water, abundant game and shelter you suppose you will find here, do not be deceived. You will only find death here. Leave at once and put miles between you and this place. May God have mercy on us all. This vengeful spirit was, as you'd guess, the survivalist, Randall Clark. But this wasn't a random act of violence. The overseer left out some extremely important details, like how they attacked, killed, and ate a group of people that Clark had been helping. Further up the road, the ghost of She, another sad story. As explained by Waking Cloud, long ago a girl lived among the sorrows. She was curious, clever, and one day went to play in the caves nearby. She didn't know that a Yagwai slept in it and didn't survive. Since she wasn't yet named, the sorrows call her the ghost of She, restless, wandering upon the earth. In putting her soul to rest, we get the ghost of She's paw and can return to Whitebird.
Here, take, gift, to remind you of visions. Use well, or sell to courier trader. Either way, says much about you.
This got me to level 7, and I rounded guns to 75 and unarmed to 50. Now, how about we go and learn some more about the survivalist? In Two Skies Cave, we'll find the survivalist cache and another 3 entries. The first is for the year 2083. 5 years after he stepped out of Fallen Rock Cave. During the month of May, he talks about the mutations he noticed in both the flora and the fauna. Prickly pear, honey mesquite, and banana yucca have some odd nodules / mutations. He makes sure not to overharvest, and his mouth waters every time he's about to taste food. That's not from a can. He saw a swarm of stinging flies being zapped by something dragonfly-sized, and a couple weeks later, bighorn sheep. A whole family, but also slightly different. They had curved horns. He saw some big-ass lizards too. He's already thinking 5 to 10 years of breeding. That would yield some fresh meat. The hides, the horns. And he finishes it off with wanting to go back to Charlotte after the winter. The second entry is for the year immediately after, 2084. In June, he's back, and he brought some goodies. The journey from Zion to Salt Lake City took 15 days. Would have been 7 to 9, but circle pockets of radiation had to be avoided. I don't know what I was thinking, he wrote. Imagined I'd find my house, dig through rubble, find something. Your bones, I hoped, and little nuts. Would have buried them. Here in Zion, maybe. Never found our house. Didn't even find our street. What wasn't a crater was scorched clean. Want to believe it was fast, a flash. Both of you vaporized. Lies to make me feel better. I'll never know. Then he imagines where the city got hit first. Northeast, and both of them would have died in a blink. Farther away, and it's a motherfucking hamburger analogy. His own words, not mine. Burned alive screaming, or the blast broken glass and bits of brick and wood splinter shredding you like a hamburger. Damn! He did find his truck though. No sign of the old couple, but he did spot 3 men heading toward Fountain Green. He thought of following them, but he didn't let the fantasy of friendship lead him to possible cannibals. 2 days later, after typing those words, he finished a little project. An electrified door. No soliciting, assholes. Home sweet fucking home. And it truly must have been, because the third and final entry here in Two Skies Cave was written 11 years later. In 2095, and it spanned from September to November. He spotted a group. 28 people. 11 men, 8 women, 9 kids. Old world clothes. Their weapons in bad shape. Heard them talk in Spanish. Paradiso, so. Paradise. Here to stay. Seem harmless. Seem. The one he calls Maria is pregnant. He thinks the father is Jose, but Miss Maria spends a lot of time with Pablo too. He almost got seen by them, so he decided to give them some more space. Near the end of the second week of November, Jose broke his leg chasing a big horner, too far for the others to hear his screams. Randall wanted to leave it alone, but couldn't. So he did what he could, and did his best Jose screaming imitation, until the others got sent in the right direction and into the real screaming Jose. Despite the funny scene to imagine, the injury was really bad. Infected. He was going to die. Of course, the others tried praying. And of course, Randall left them some antibiotics on a rock outside their camp. They thanked God, and I quote, "Of course, as though that asshole saw fit to burn the world, but still cared enough to leave some medicine on a rock." Randall wonders if they'll survive the winter, but he's also pretty sure that this good deed for the month saved Jose's life. He'll still have a permanent limp though. Outside, I found a bridge that's filled with bear traps. We just have to disarm the over half a dozen of them. A couple miscellaneous white legs showed up, but they didn't stand a chance. Next stop, Stonebone's Cave. This one's in the Narrows, just by the Sorrows, but we're going for the entries in chronological order. Here we'll find more than a couple entries in the survivalist cache. There is a Desert Ranger combat armor and helmets. As for the entries, they are both for 2096. 1 year later of where we left off, starting in February, and remember that note from the Vault 22 dwellers? Yeah. First interaction between those two? They killed all the men. Randall thinks they would have taken the women alive, but, well, 2 of them were a bit too busy shooting back at the dwellers for things not to get worse. So, 2 women and 5 children. That's who survived. From 28 to 7, being kept in a pen. Over 100 dwellers, all in vault suits with their 22 on their backs. Armed to the teeth. Disciplined. Randall's thinking how he can save the hostages. The next day, as he's doing recon at night, he hears a lot of coughing. The dwellers are sick. The plan is to infiltrate tomorrow. February 14th just says they ate them. 5 days later, 6 dwellers died. Their coughing could be heard from a mile away. Randall used their grenades to booby-trap bodies but kept half. Secured 6 submachine guns, 5 rounds of 10mm, 6 frags. The next day, 2 men died from checking the bodies. Another 2 were shot with his rifle. 1 was shot but left alive just so he could spread the message. On the 23rd, he added 8 more bodies to the revenge pile. On the 28th, he added another 6, but a 10mm bullet cut his thigh. He put a tourniquet on it, and this is Randall Clark. Don't bother thinking he will die here. He brought the Dwellers' combat forces to a third in 10 days. 24 confirmed kills. March 2nd, he woke up with the screams of a small patrol. His traps made them panic. Ricochet almost hit him. Crawling, he took the 3 men out with his SMG. Then he decided to leave to a cave down south, taking with him as much food as he could. Next stop, Cueva Guarache. Over here we find what's left of the Dwellers, or what's left of them, in the form of spore carriers. Another survivalist cache, and another 3 entries, starting with the next year, 2097. January. He won. It took 10 months of killing, but the Dwellers are gone. The 34 that still lived ate their dead and struck out southeast. He just feels cold. Well, justified too. Half a week later, screams. Out of nowhere. For a second, he thought he was dreaming, or that the Dwellers tricked him, that they just pretended to leave and that a patrol was out to get him. But no, that couldn't be. It was a woman. He glanced. It was one of the Dwellers, ankle deep in a bear trap. He leveled his submachine gun, but her crying stopped him. Then, she saw him. The screams of pain quickly turned into screams of fear. She's looking at the boogeyman that was killing her group, one by one. Randall helped her. Sylvie's her name. Claims to have run away from the others. Called them children of the devil. Evil people. And it turns out, they were sick after all. Something they caught in the vault they lived in. She didn't seem sick, at least not yet, he thought. But, you know, bear trap and all. So, that's how Randall Clark added nurse to his list of hobbies. Her story added up to what he learned from his quote-unquote interrogations, but according to her, and I quote, "Let's just say it was bad to be a woman in that group." When they left, she slipped away, said she knows nothing about living outside of vaults, that she wants to learn. 3 years later, in September of 2100, yep, she's pregnant. Because what else would these two end up doing for 3 years? And he is terrified. He mentions Canada, how being deployed there doesn't even compare. The criminality of it was sickening, not scary, eh? And neither was the end of the world. Oh, and he's typing this to Charlotte, writing that once he knew they were dead, there was nothing left to be scared about. He just went on. Even fighting the Dwellers was more like daring them to finish him off. And killing them was the closest he had to feeling happy in years. Now, the thought of being a father again at 47, in this world, terrifying for him. Sylvie, though, she's so excited, saying it's God's will, like nothing can go wrong. He continues to Charlotte that he never told Sylvie about her or Alex. Almost did, but the thoughts. Specifically, the thought of not wanting his young wife to know he failed the one that came before her. And so he just went on to Tokerville for medical books and supplies. He apologized to Charlotte, asked her to forgive him, and March 5th, 2101, they lost a child. Would have been a son, Michael. Sylvie never woke up either. Randall Clark once again flirts with the idea of writing a Nirvana song all over the cave's walls. Back to Daniel, I give him all the Brock flower and Zenderroot that I've collected. It's a fair amount. Nothing off the beaten path, though. I also went back to Joshua just for some trading, and then I made my way to Morning Glory Cave.
We should not be here. This place, it belongs to the Father in the caves. We must not profane it with our touch.
What are you talking about?
The Father in the caves. The Holy Father who gave the Sorrows his succor and gave the new Canaanites his son. Many of the caves around the valley are sacred to him, and those who would trespass are punished by holy wrath.
I told her that Randall was just a man who lived a long time ago. She thinks I'm mocking her. And the game doesn't let me tell her that she's mixing two entirely different concepts into one mythos. Some more spore carriers later, and I get to level 8. I put the points into guns and took the second rank of the toughness perk. Found the key I needed, another survivalist cache, the grand staircase map for Daniel, and 3 more entries. 7 years later, in August of 2108, he notes 10 sets of tracks half a mile northeast of the canyon's entrance. Barefoot? He questions. A day later, on the 23rd, he saw them through the scope. Corpses. Walking around. He's going crazy. The next day, well, they see him back. Seeing them react, let him know that he was not going insane, and they rushed him. snarling like animals. Interestingly enough, the feral ghouls didn't smell rotted. He decided to put them out of their misery, to do for them what he's been unable to do for himself. September 3rd, the last of them, all gone. Second entries for the year of 2113, 5 years later, on February 5th. Happy birthday, you useless old dinosaur! Happy 60th. What do you get a man who has everything? A bottle of whiskey and a 12 gauge. Woo! He still won't do it. At this point, we've all seen the man's using humor to cope with the cards he's been dealt. But this time, he convinces himself that he will do it. Charlotte, Alex, Sylvie, and Michael who could have been. As he's thinking about them, he says goodbye to Zion and... yeah, he couldn't do it. Maybe 2 bottles instead of just the one next year. Third entry, 21-23. 10 years later. Randall's still going strong, he writes. 24 of them. Half boys, half girls. Youngest is maybe 8. Oldest, 13, 14. Dirty and scrawny. Been on foot a long while. They made camp on nearly the same spot as Los Mexicanos, 30 years and a lifetime ago. Randall spent 2 nights listening to them. English. Literate. One reads stories while the little ones fall asleep. Seems they escaped someplace they call the school. And when they want someone to behave, they tell him to stop, or the principal will get you. Randall, of course, has already decided that if a principal were to show up, well, he can still shoot straight. Now, if you're thinking what I was also thinking, if the principal could be Dr. Boris and whether the children escaped the X8 Research Center, no. That's been debunked by Chris Avalon. Back to us, and after fighting some Yaogwai, me and Wiking Cloud reached a couple White Legs war camps. This is part of Daniel's tasks, and over here we've got options. We can steal their totems, or destroy all of the White Legs. I'm just gonna do both. Next, we're off to Red Gate, where there's a skeleton beside a duffel bag. The survivalist's duffel bag. Amongst the loot we encounter Randall Clark's rifle and his final log. 21-24, starting on January 2nd, 1 year since the last entry. He has been leaving notes and gifts for the kids. They liked the books, so he started with stories, but has moved on to weapon manuals, medical books, practical stuff. He describes the notes as embarrassing, like a birthday or a Christmas card you'd give to someone you care about, all sweet and loving. He tells them to read, to learn, to make the most of their new home. That he is giving them Zion as a gift, to make up for all the sorrows of their lives so far. And all the sorrows man has visited on man, that they should be kind to each other, modest, to never hurt each other, but that if someone else comes along and tries to hurt them, to strike back with righteous anger, stuff like that. And he always signs every note with the Father, just because. January 18th. Have I mentioned that I'm dying? No, Randall, you very much left that through the very end. Mine's still sharp, he says. Lungs are the problem. Could be cancer. Cough's getting worse and there's blood in it. It's becoming harder to visit the group. He's given away most of what he owns, but he expects them to find the rest in the caves when they get a little older. He doesn't want them to find them, though, to see that the father is a broke-down old man. He doesn't want to disappoint them, and he doesn't want another birthday. January 23rd. He knows it's cold enough for him not to last long on the high mound up next to Red Gate. So he gathers all of his strength, makes it here and lies down, stares at the sky. He hopes they'll do well, that no harm comes to them, from within or without. He did what he could to help them, to prepare them, wrote every single one of them what made each one special, that the Father was pleased by their kind natures, and that from here on out they'd have to handle things on their own, that the Father would be silent, but he'd still be watching, caring. A sweet lie, just like when he told Charlotte, Alex, and Sylvie that he'd be with them forever. He says, maybe the only point of all this living was to keep those pictures in my head going for as long as I could. It was the only life I could give you. I wish them well. It's been a gift to me, at the end of it all, to behold innocence. Goodbye, Zion. Randall Dean Clark, February 5th, 2053. To January 2124. That group of kids that Randall helped were the Sorrows' ancestors. And here we are, 157 years later, debating whether the Sorrows should leave Zion. Randall's parting gift to them. Well, there's still one last thing we need to do to decide whether to detonate some dynamite in a cave that the Yogwai near the evacuation route use as a nest, or to simply obliterate their general population in the area. Waking Cloud warns us of danger, making me expect a huge quantity of Yogwai. I get to level 9, get guns to 100, round energy weapons to 30, and we fight like 4 bears. 4! Come on, but alas. We've done the second batch of tasks, and so we can return to Daniel and give him the map.
I appreciate it. Well, that's it. This is all we need. Now all that's left is to quietly pack up and try to get out of here without being noticed. That's assuming that Joshua won't try to stop me. And that he hasn't talked you into fighting the Whitelegs despite what I've said. Don't worry, I don't hold it against you. You're an outsider. Fighting seems like the practical solution. I'll tell you again. There's more at stake.
There is, indeed, more at stake. And I've decided to honor Randall Clark's wishes. We'll fight for Zion. Daniel once again tries to argue about it. I see his argument, I really do. But look at the world. If it's not the Whitelegs now, it'll be someone else later. And if it's not in Zion, it'll be somewhere else. Raiders, Fiends, the Legion, Radiation, you name it. At least here they don't have to worry about irradiated water or food, and I've got my own grudge with the Whitelegs. Happy trails, remember? And so Waking Cloud leaves our side, cause Joshua's about to join the party.
Thank you for this. I know Daniel doesn't approve, but destroying the Whitelegs is the only way to ensure the Sorrows can remain in Zion. You and I will lead a group of Dead Horse warriors and Sorrows hunters into 3 Marys from this position. Our objective is to find the Whitelegs leader, Salt Upon Wounds, and prevent him from fleeing. Show no quarter to the Whitelegs we come across. Make no mistake about why we are here. This is an extermination.
Let's do it.
God be with you.
This brings us to an unnecessarily long walk for the sake of having Joshua's company for more than a cutscene. I mean, sure, you made this near-mythical character we finally got to meet, but do we really need to go from the northernmost point of the map to the southernmost one? And we're just fighting more Whitelegs. It's not like there's a chain of command, or unique members besides the big bad boss man. Either way, I get to level 10, keep improving energy weapons, and take the Fight the Power perk. After reaching 3 Marys and going for a swim, an explosion separates us from Joshua Graham. Meaning, we no longer benefit from his perk or have another gun besides ours, despite the massive number of Whitelegs. In return, it's the Dead Horses and the Sorrows that help us past the cavern and in the middle of the Whitelegs camp. Eventually, the screen fades to black and we are reunited with Joshua Graham, gun in hand, executing the captured tribals beside Salt Upon Wounds.
You took advantage of us at New Canaan to drive us out. And like the dogs of Caesar you are, you followed us to Zion. And now you stand on holy ground, a temple to God's glory on earth. The only use for an animal in our temple is sacrifice.
Outman. Kunaman mad. He killed all Whitelegs. You talk. You stop.
Didn't he just do to you what you did to others? At least I can argue with Joshua about morality. Salt Upon Wounds is just a hypocrite. And there's no point in chatting with Joshua. Unless you want him to either chill or outright execute him. And that's not what I want. I want to fight Salt Upon Wounds. Do unto him exactly what he did unto the crew I came in with. I want to honor Randall Clark one last time.
It's the same end he would have met if he had died on his knees. But I suppose this was for the sake of the Dead Horses and Sorrows. Still, thanks to your help and the grace of God, the Whitelegs won't be troubling Zion anymore. Let's go find Daniel. Tomorrow we'll be here soon enough. And there is much to do.
Indeed, I still want to go and meet Kaiser and choose an ending for Hooverdam, so don't worry.
And so it was that the conflict between the New Canaanites and the Whitelegs was finally resolved.
When the courier and Joshua Graham felled Salt Upon Wounds, their victory was celebrated with a great feast. The Sorrows' transformation from a peaceful, timid tribe into a proud and warlike people broke Daniel's heart. He tried to take solace in the knowledge that they would remain in Zion, but it was a small comfort. The Sorrows' innocence was lost.
Having helped eradicate the Whitelegs from Zion, the Dead Horses returned to Dead Horse Point in triumph. They remained neutral toward the Sorrows, but as years went on, there were periods of competitive friction, even violence between the tribes. The new Canaanites, Daniel especially, intervened regularly as mediators, but found it difficult to reconcile the tribe's conflicts.
The defeat of the Whitelegs in Zion marked a turning point in the fortunes of the Happy Trails Caravan Company. Every 2 months, the caravan met with the new Canaanites in Zion Valley to trade. Happy Trails soon returned to prosperity.
Joshua led the Sorrows and Dead Horses in tending to their comrades and burning the corpses of their foes. He continued to advocate militant opposition to the enemies of New Canaan and showed little quarter to those he fought. And yet he was changed. He no longer reveled in the brutality and cruelty for which he had been known in his former life. His inner demons, if not extinguished, were at the least appeased.
Demoralized, he returned to his family and Dead Horse Point. His failures haunted him for the rest of his days.
And with that, the courier walked out of the history of the tribes of Zion and back to the gathering storm of the Mojave Wasteland.
And we're back, still in Zion though, staring at a new Foot Locker with plenty of unique items. The named NPCs magically disappear after the credits. It's just a gameplay thing. There is no lore to it, but yeah. It's a shame really, cause I wouldn't have minded to give Follows Chalk what he wanted. An opportunity to travel the world, see civilization for himself, or, well, what's left of it. Joshua's armor and Salt Upon Wounds helmets are amazing for a crit build. In the 188, I paid for some repairs and made a beeline to Veronica, whom I asked a favor. She'll get me inside the Hidden Valley bunker without me having an explosive collar around my neck, and in return, I'll leave the Brotherhood alone. In Sloan, Chumps warns us about the death clause, and here's Snuffles, she's a cutie. I patched her leg, Chumps thanked us, and we visited the bunker. Veronica gets them to open the door, and over here, all I need is to say hi to Ramos. That's one faction down, and so I dismiss Veronica, and make my way to Red Rock Canyon. We just need to go down past the map marker, and since we're here, might as well grab the turbo and medics the Khan's got laying around. We go on to tenderize some raw hamburgers, and then we meet George, the boomer that's not really part of the boomers. He wants to make a bet. I don't want to forget to come back for my money, so yeah. Thanks to the left hill, I made it to the gate, this time unscathed. That is rare. The boomers take me to their elder, we once again just need to meet and greet, and I make sure to go back to the 188 so I can get the El Dorado substation map marker. Since we're at it, may as well just go get cottonwood cubs as well and release the irradiated barrels. After turning the settlement into a massive fuck you to the Legion, we're ready to go to the strip. Old Ben's doing a vodka squat, the squatters got no rights, a couple thugs made their last wrong decision, and the Securitrons see that we ain't broke. Victor says hi, and the last two people we need to meet is the Omerta's greeter and Mortimer. Oh, and Billy's got jokes.
It's hard to sleep in this place, I tell you. Last night some girl was pounding on my door all night. Finally I had to let her out. What?
Okay. With everything in place to get the side bets quest going, it's time to go visit the tops. And since I've got the Black Widow perk, we might as well get the Platinum chip the easy way.
You're Platinum, pussycat. You know how to swing. Nice Charlies, too. Give him a shake for the Ben man, will you? Hello.
Benny dies in his sleep, we get the Platinum chip, I get the level 12, keep making my steam packs less useless, take the Bloody Mess perk, and we go on to meet Yes Man. A whole rant later, and outside, Vulpes Inculta shows up. Kaiser wants to meet us. But before doing so, I'm gonna go for the Lucky 38. Use the Platinum chip to access Mr. House's control room and show him a light shining in darkness. That's another 500 XP. I ignored the NCR trooper that wanted me to go and meet the ambassador, and in the cove, we tell Lucullus to start rowing. We are forced to disarm, unfortunately, and we cannot even carry steam packs here in the forts. But we can finally meet the man himself.
So I finally get to meet the courier who's accomplished so much in so little time. That's why I summoned you here, right? I mean, a man nearly kills you, and your response is to track him across the breadth of the Mojave?
That's it? Nothing else? You're not an ally shorter, you know, the white legs? Haven't the slaves been telling stories about the burned man again? Either way, yeah, we cannot mention Joshua Graham in any way, shape or form. And so, Kaiser goes on about his lifelong dream of feeling the ground shake. We agree to help, since we know how to lie, and in the weather monitoring station, all of our items are returned to us. The platinum chip gives us access to the Securitron vault. The rifle obliterates the protectrons and the turrets. That reminds me that Kaiser's not reacting to Joshua's armor or Salt Upon Wound's helmet. And I destroy the generators. Oh, and I also put every single weapon and aid item in a little desk. That way, the guard won't have anything to take away from me, and these little tricks enough to raise some chaos. But first, this gets me to level 13, I just keep improving medicine, and who's all happy and giggly?
I felt the ground shake a while ago.
That's 600 XP, the Legion now accepts me, and I'm gonna give Kaiser a new haircut. That little brain tumor won't be an issue anymore either. That one is for Joshua. As for the others, it would just be a pointless slaughterfest, so I just left. Lacalos was the only one to follow me back to the cove, so he got to see a light shining in darkness up close as well. I then asked Doc Mitchell to heal my radiation and Yes Man to join me in the Lucky 38. We go over the unskippable Securitron demonstration. He upgrades the stripped Securitrons to their Mark II, tasks me with installing an override chip in the El Dorado substation, despite me not having upgraded those toasters. And the quick in and out did it, cause everyone was asleep. I got some repairs done in the 188, told Yes Man that I do not care about Kimball, and we're ready for the second battle of Hoover Dam, to do what Joshua Graham couldn't. We see a cool explosion. There's absolutely nothing that interests me here in the west side of the dam, so I just run and heal until I'm in the offices. Completely obliterate the NCR heavy troopers, install the other override chip, this time to grant Yes Man control over the dam, and for level 14 I kept improving medicine, took the finesse perk, and destroyed the dam's generators. On the east side, we just run and heal some more until the Legate's camp. This last part has been all for this, to test our honest heart goodies against Lanius and his men, and the Praetorians didn't stand a chance.
An envoy of Vegas, yet you carry yourself for battle. If so, you cannot truly be of that city of cowards.
I'm hell-bent on using his predecessor's favorite weapon against the current legate, embarrass Lanius on battle, and I got power-fisted a bit too hard. That earned me the opportunity to do it all over again. This crit build is insane, and so we're golden, obviously, and the rest of his Praetorians followed suit. They can be a bit annoying if plenty of them come at you at the same time, but one-on-one, they're nothing to write home about. And here comes General Lee Oliver, doing the slowest of walks, going over nearly every single swear word in the English language. The cigar is a lie, but the stealth boy and the headshots were very, very true. And so, can you beat Fallout New Vegas Honest Hearts at level 1? While making it more of a lore video than a challenge. Jesus, this was ridiculous, but of course you can. As always, remember to check the playlists for more challenges and the channel for more videos. If you want to help me keeping making these, hit that join button, comment, or like. And I'd like to give a big shout out to Steve Whittle and to John Walker for their support of the channel. And to you! So, thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, I hope I'll see you on the next one, and I hope you have a good one. Bye!
And I guess I'll see you around. We accomplished a lot together. It was fun. Take care.